Boogeyman is real, and you found him.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
7 days.
I am Dracula.
We have such sights to show you. Boy!
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
I am the eater of worlds and of children.
What's in the fucking box?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
One by one, we will take you.
Never get out of bed again!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
Welcome, horror fans! It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. or a little after Central Time, and it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that's lurking just beyond your peripheral. And if you, dear horror fanatic, listening to us at the top of the week, remember, we do this live right here on freaking YouTube every preceding Wednesday. So, we hope to see you in the live chat. Come and join us. Hang out with our sick asses, because we have a lot of fun here. This week, we are looking back at select horror films released July 21st through July 27th. Thank you all so much for joining us for what will surely be a bloody good time. I'm JL, and with me tonight is the sex symbol of Week in Horror, Eugene.
What's up, everybody?
Yes. Oh, people are already clamoring. Oh, Eugene's here. We don't just have to look at JL. So people are very, very happy. They're tired of seeing just my face. So, but man, oh man, so we got some cool stuff to talk about. And I think some excellent film selections tonight. Some interesting film selections tonight. But you've been slammed busy. I'm glad we're finally able to get a breather, because you've been going nonstop like the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month.
Oh yeah, I've been out of town for some shoots, coming and doing some shoots here. I've been doing camera work for the evening news, trying to get some other projects off the ground. So it's been super busy.
That is the life of a working professional, like moving that's pretty much what it looks like. Gig to gig to gig to gig, until you get that big one that allows you to kind of just like sit back and relax for a minute once it's done. Otherwise, you're jumping from job to job, and that's like 99% of us who work in this industry. That's what it looks like for us. It's just kind of like it's like a normal day. It's like a normal job. It's just like you wake up, you go to your job, and then you work. Like, it's not like 9 to 5 behind a desk, and but that's what you're doing. You're jumping from, like, once a job is done, you're on to the next job, and so on and so forth. It always weirded me out as an actor, having multiple projects going on at once, until I always thought that was very weird. It's like, because you have this idea when you're young, like you're in the zone, like this is art, you're in the character, but then when you got to pay the bills, you take multiple jobs on at once, and so today you may play this character, but then, or like for a couple of days, but then you got to go over to this other set and you got to play a completely different character and do that. And the same thing goes for DPs, directors, like that. You never know really what kind of job you're going to be on until you're on it, and all the environments are always different, so it's always a new landscape, and you just kind of go in there and you do your job. So it's always a lot of fun, or kind of I like that kind of spiciness to it. It's like what to expect.
It always keeps things interesting, because you don't know exactly sometimes what you're walking into. And even then, you may have a different variety of roles. So you may be a director one, a cinematographer another one. You may run sound for another one. So your job is jumping around, just like as actors. You may play a character for a week, and then the very next day have to play a completely different character. And you can't use excuse of, oh, well, I still have this last character in my head. I can't really deliver today. Like the director would be like, oh, and I understand. You can go about 50% on this one. So
not unless you're raking in the money. Not like your presence guarantees the budget at the box office. Then you might like the super powerful individuals who make it difficult for all the rest of us. you know, they get that kind of leeway, but we don't get that kind of leeway.
Well, also, I mean, you hit that level where the A-listers are doing 2-3 projects a year because that's all they need. So they have 2 months to decompress and study for, or if you're Daniel Day-Lewis, one project every 5 years. So like you have the freedom for that.
It's gonna be nice to work one job a year and then just go out and just do as you like. Just and they're still making money. It's just not like an intensive project like taking on like, you know, like a film that's gonna be shooting for 3 to 6 months and you're in there and you're just like, and then you can just take it off because you're doing other stuff. You're producing things, you're investing in stuff, you're exploring other things, but you're doing what you want. And then like Daniel Day-Lewis is like, yeah, I do this movie thing so that I could just do it like once and that pays for like everything else for like the next few years. And then I could just do like other stuff, you know, like the things I want to do. There's, oh shit, time to do a movie. You know, go there, get an Oscar nomination, walk out, move on with my life.
It's about time. It's been a couple years since I've won an Oscar, so
it's like, oh shit, time, yeah. The other ones on the other ones in the mantle are getting a little dusty. So, yes, first tangent of the industry. Thank you, Sarcasm. First tangent of the evening brought to you by the industry. Yes, absolutely. So, good evening, everybody. I hope you all are doing fantastic. It's so fantastic to see everybody, and it's great to have Eugene finally get to take a breather and hang out with us. Let's get that Patreon banner up there. There's all those amazing people down there that help us to make the show possible. We love you all very much. Thank you very much. Couldn't do the show without you. Let's see who we have in the live chat before we dive into our stuff, because there's a big thing that I want to chat with people about, and I want to get your opinion on some stuff as well, because it recently just hit the news. So, let's see. First and foremost, we had Casey Cooper's up. It says, well met. Hot day. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Very, very hot out there. Especially, I imagine it's hot in Texas where Eugene is. It's hot where I am. And it sucks because we just got rain. Like, we had a big storm come through last night. But when you live in Texas or Oklahoma, that's not a relief, because immediately after, it's humid as balls. And so you have to take a knife with you outside to cut through the humidity so you can get to your freaking car. And that just sucks. Gross. Let's see. Travis Brown is here. Good to see you, bud. Said, evening, y'all. I just finished watching the last part of Fear Street, and I agree with JL that it felt downgraded from the first two parts, but he enjoyed 1994. Fantastic. Yeah. We talked about what our favorite entry in the trilogy was last week when we finished because we had the trilogy set up for 3 different episodes, and so like my favorite is 1978. That's like my favorite of the 3. Did you have a fave of the Fear Street trilogy?
So I would have to go 1994. I did. Cool. I really enjoy. I mean, right off the bat, it opens up with some 9 Inch Nails, so I can't like. You already kind of sold me
exactly.
on that.
The soundtrack was fucking choice.
Yeah,
choice. Like Lee Janiak knew. Like the vision for that was brilliant. And I think it's because 1994 has that Wes Craven kind of appeal to it. It has that Wes Craven energy going in. So it's so inspired to him. Whereas 78 was like Sean S. Cunningham, Toby Hooper, and I loved that kind of feeling that way. And then of course, like the period piece, like the third of the trilogy, like very Ari Aster, very Robert Eggers in its kind of presentation, which I loved how they kind of captured that shit. But that was, it's amazing stuff. So if you haven't seen the Fear Street trilogy, it's on Netflix. Go watch it immediately. It's fucking great. Let's see. Extra J is here. Good to see you, Extra J. Yep, you're here at the start of the show. Fantastic. Appreciate you being here. J-Verse is here. Good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. Good to see you, J-Verse. Gabby too, you wrote no last name. Says, I'm going to write a TV show about the ghost of an arrogant doctor that solves weird medical issues. I'm calling it Haunted House. But
I see what you did there. Well played.
Left-handed Jedi's here. Good evening, sir. Good to see you. Joshua Lee is here. Says, it's Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, good sir. Thank you so much for being here. Casey Cooper has been a member of the Army of the Dead for 12 months. 1 year in the bag, Casey Cooper. Thank you so much for that support. We appreciate that. Everybody started chanting your name when you came in. Casey Cooper says, Eugene. Joshua Lee says, Eugene. So people missed you, man. They missed you.
I've missed y'all. I've missed the show. I've been able to pop in for a movie here and there, but I haven't done a full episode in at least a month, maybe 2.
Yeah, it's been a second.
It's been too long. I can't let JL have all the fun.
Elizabeth S is here. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for being here. It's been a while. Glad to see you're in the chat. Yes, everybody calling you Spielberg. Yeah. Statham. You know. Tang Whistle CPM is here. Good to see you, Tang. Said made it, panting out. Yes, glad to have you here. Let me see who else we got. Nocturnal Lux is here. It says early day tomorrow. Can't say, but just wanted to say The Host is my second favorite horror movie of all time. Fantastic, and I'm glad that we're getting a chance to talk about it because it's a beautiful example of that mid 2000s filmmaking, but it's not American. So it was like mid 2000s American filmmaking, but everywhere else, amazeballs. So I'm so glad we get
much better than it's much better than American films in that same time.
Fuck yeah,
much better
from an effects for everything from writing all the way up to effects. Yes, we'll dive into it. We're going to get into it. It's going to be amazing. Aaron Reese, good to see you, bud. Thanks so much for being here. Yeah, bro, no last name says, unless, of course, you're Keanu Reeves. Then you just play you. That's true. Very true. Sarcasm, good to see you. Alien X Gaming is hanging out. Good to see you, bud. It's been forever. Glad to see you here. Extra J says, or Jack Nicholson. What level of Jack do you want me to play in this one? Yes. The level of Jack. Oh, Alien X Gaming says, JL, I miss your musk and beard. Yes, you know, it permeates, you know, it permeates the channel. So you can just you see me on screen, be like, yes, that is a woodland animal. If I ever smelled one, that is a 7-foot ungulate. Sherry Tilley, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Omni Boros has been a member of the Army of the Dead for 3 months. Appreciate that, Omni. Angel Rivera says, what up, horror fiends? Good to see you, Angel. And I think Omni says, could JL play Keanu? No, I could not play Keanu. I couldn't. I could not play Keanu. Keanu is just in a league of his own. Left-handed Jedi says, JL, the Orson Welles of horror. That's high praise. That's high praise. I'll take that.
That's high praise.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
I will take that. Absolutely. Dib, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out. All right. I think I caught everybody. Oh, see, Omni says Eugene missed me more. Everybody misses you, Omni. When you're not here, we feel it.
Omni, I missed you.
Right here.
I missed you here. A little bit here.
I see your name in the chat and I just get a little butterfly. I get a little flutter, you know?
I do the butterfly.
I got goosebumps, man. I got goosebumps. All right. So, cool thing to talk about. This is really, really awesome. So, before we dive into tonight's selections, everybody needs to know that over on AMC's Shudder, because the Shudder has their own channel, and of course it's aired on AMC, the 2024 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards are coming up. Okay, so all your favorite horror films, the ones that have been selected, are up for voting, and you get to vote to see who will win. And those voting can be done at fangoria.com/vote. The voting polls close on July 20th. So you've got as of this recording, you've got 3 more days to vote for your favorites in the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards of 2024. And I have to admit, they have some excellent selections in this one. So, and I don't want to read them all out, but I got to get some opinions. Okay. So just the top stuff. Best wide release. They have multiple categories. They have best wide release movie, best limited release movie, best streaming premiere movie, best first feature for like a director, best first feature, best international film, best lead performance, best supporting performance, best director, best screenplay, best cinematography, best makeup effects, best creature effects, best costume design, best score, best documentary, best series, and a brand new category, best video game. So they've added that for this year. So interesting stuff. But of the best pictures, these are the things that are up for best picture, right? So the best wide release movie, the nominees are Abigail, Evil Dead Rise, The First Omen, Godzilla -1, Infinity Pool, Late Night with the Devil, Megan, Satanic Hispanics, Talk to Me, and When Evil Lurks. So those are the nominees for best wide release movie. And I'm just curious, of those choices, What do you pick? What do you think is the best out of there?
So I honestly believe the winner will probably be When Evil Lurks. And the reason is because Godzilla -1 is a crowning achievement.
Oh, it's so good.
I honestly believe When Evil Lurks is more of the horror. Like Godzilla -1 is a horror film, but it's not the type of horror that usually wins these type of awards. So I'm pretty sure it'll get something like Best Visual Effects. Obviously, I mean, it won Best Visual Effects in the Oscars. So
yeah, I think it will. Yeah,
because it did. It did win Best Visual Effects.
No, I think you're like for best like effects here in the Fangoria Awards. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the Godzilla. Yeah, the Godzilla -1 will win for that. But I am so with you. When you compare these, okay, I enjoyed Abigail. Abigail was fun. That's a fun popcorn movie, and the actress that got to play Abigail was phenomenal. But it's a fun popcorn movie. Evil Dead Rise, it's horror, but it's kind of niche. It's in that respect. First Omen, no, absolutely not. Infinity Pool, I love Cronenberg, but that one left a few people in the dust because it's Cronenberg. It's Cronenberg surrealistic, like Crimes of the Future. A lot of people
audience.
Like it. Exactly, it's very niche. Late Night with the Devil was good, and it was really good. One of the best on this list. And of course, Talk to Me, also fantastic. Okay, but Late Night with the Devil and Talk to Me are good because of like specific moments, like showpiece moments in those films are the things that grab you. Okay, and then Megan, with fun popcorn film. I'm going to give it that. It's definitely what Chucky should have been.
Megan was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Satanic Hispanics was fucking hilarious. If you have not seen it, definitely go watch it because it's funny. It's a horror comedy. It's very, very funny. But When Evil Lurks, I haven't had a horror film leave my jaw on the floor in a minute, and I'm talking multiple times throughout that whole fucking movie. There is everything from tiny little things that you just might miss to big, huge, grand moments. Like there were moments there that I was like,
in there.
I was like, holy fuck. And so it blew my mind. The acting was phenomenal. Everything, the cinematography, the practical effects. Holy shit. Everything was on point. So my vote is When Evil Lurks for best wide release movie. And if fucking Megan win, like Aaron Reese says When Evil Lurks, though Megan will probably take it because of the wider release. Fuck that. Megan does not beat. If this is fucking horror movies, come on.
Yeah, if this was more like a general, like say a film festival, then I would say Megan has a chance. And like I said, Megan was a fun movie. It wasn't bad by any means.
No,
and the girl who played Megan did an excellent job with it. But when you talk about the true essence of horror,
the essence of horror,
it's going to be When Evil Lurks. That's just a hands down. It hits the right notes because even some of the films like say Talk to Me that got really, really wide release, Evil Dead Rise, honestly the nomination I kind of feel is a cop out because it's the weakest of the series. Like it really is. Now you're talking about a franchise that has one hit after another hit after another hit after another hit, including the TV show. But Evil Dead Rise is the weakest of the franchise. You're not going to.
I would agree. Yeah.
To the franchise.
Yeah.
You're just
to rank them all. If you're gonna go like Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash versus Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, however you rank them, Evil Dead Rise is always going to be at the bottom of that list, no matter how much you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's going to be at the bottom.
Oh,
and that's the kicker because Abigail and Megan, pretty much are driven by their lead actresses, and they have like some good moments, but overall, they're just fun popcorn flicks. Evil Dead Rise, the only thing that really captivated me about, I mean, I love Evil Dead, I really do, and of course the practical effects were amazing, but it was Alyssa Sutherland that pretty much like Alyssa Sutherland as the mom that turns into a deadite. I thought she was fucking brilliant. She was great, but everything else, it was very unbalanced, but nonetheless, a fun movie. First Omen, sucktacular. Don't watch it. You don't need to. It's unnecessary. Godzilla -1, holy fuck. But But Infinity Pool, Niche, Late Night with the Devil, big showpiece moment. That's what like same thing with and same with Talk to Me. The thing that got me Talk to Me, even though the ending was predictable, Talk to Me was solid. That opening sequence, the opening cinema, like that uncut, like what was it, like 4-minute opening where the camera's following the kid, leads into the stabbing. That whole, I was like, holy shit, there's no cuts here. Like amidst a giant party with all these extras walking around like that, and the camera's like following. I was like, oh, I was like, damn, that was good.
Like, okay, I see what you're doing.
I was like, we're good. This is solid, and it's just that it kind of unfortunately it paints itself into a corner. You kind of predict where it's gonna wind up. Satanic Hispanics, funny as hell, really good stuff, good anthology. But When Evil Lurks is the hands down winner. Like you said, the essence of horror, everything that makes the genre what it is. It pushes boundaries. It's full of WTF moments. I think the last time I saw a film that got me like this was the 2013 Evil Dead continuation with Jane Levy. Okay, and it was only the first 5 minutes of that. The opening 5 minutes of the 2013 Evil Dead left me with my jaw on the floor. I was like, this is Fede Alvarez has fucking got it. I was like, this is it. And I can't remember a movie doing that to me since, until I saw When Evil Lurks, and I was like, I'm so uncomfortable in this chair. Yeah. So yeah, but the voting is up. Voting is at fangoria.com/vote. You've got 3 days left to go and put your votes in. Hold 46 nominees, all kinds of stuff. I've got my own choices here. I think it's fantastic stuff, but go put your votes in if you want to see that. And of course, that will air on AMC on their basically their Shudder channel. You can check that out. It's going to be a blast. I'm definitely going to watch it, see if my picks are going to win. Bunch of choices for best lead performance. The best lead performance is even harder because best lead performance is like Tobin Bell in Saw X, David Dastmalchian in Late Night with the Devil, Caitlin Dever in No One Will Save You, Nell Tigerfree in The First Omen, Catherine Newton in Lisa Frankenstein, Lupita Nyong'o in A Quiet Place Day One, Emma Stone in Poor Things, Lily Sullivan in Evil Dead Rise, Sydney Sweeney in Immaculate, and Sophie Wilde in Talk to Me. And I'm torn between David Dastmalchian in Late Night with the Devil and Sophie Wilde in Talk to Me as far as best performances of that list.
I was going to lean more towards David Dastmalchian.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because even from the trailer, he caught my attention.
It's so good, right?
That's why I'm not nothing to take away from Sophie Wilde, but I think David's going to have this one on it. I mean, it just
so many good choices.
Yeah, just the first frame, I'm already hooked with him. He's been around for a very long time, a long time character actor, and it's about time he gets the recognition that he deserves.
Yeah. And of course, Alyssa Sutherland is up for Best Supporting in Evil Dead Rise. There's a number of individuals. I think Catherine Newton and Abigail. I think Catherine Newton and Abigail is up for Best Supporting as well as Nicolas Cage in Renfield and Dave Bautista in Knock at the Cabin, because Dave Bautista is a magnificent talent, just so underrated. But I'm gonna have to give it to because Catherine Newton, Dan Stevens, and Alicia Weir are all up for Abigail. And Alicia Weir is who played Abigail, and she was fucking amazing. But it's going to be tough. A lot of good choices. Excellent choices. We're not going to run through them all. There's simply too many. But definitely, fangoria.com/vote. Go get your votes in for the 2024 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. And I'm going to be watching to see if my picks win, because I've got some selections in there. So, hell fucking yeah. All right. Let's see, Aaron Reese says, Week in Horror. The Black Phone beat out Nope, Pearl, X, and Barbarian last year. Horror fans know the bigger the release, the higher the chance of winning. That's an unfortunate thing, even though Black Phone was amazing. I personally would not put Black Phone above Nope, because Nope did, Jordan Peele, we're going to talk about it, because we're talking about it tonight. And but I don't think it beat Nope. I could definitely put Black Phone above Pearl and above X, and probably tied with Barbarian. But I definitely wouldn't put it above Nope. That's my personal take on that.
I enjoyed Black Phone as well with Ethan Hawke, who does a really great job in that movie. But even I would put Pearl and X above Black Phone, and
Really?
it's because when you look at X, the subtones and the little nuances that Ty West does, it says a lot about not only horror as a genre as a whole, because there's so many things that subvert expectations, and you can tell he's somebody who's really, really invested, mixed with Mia Goth's performance is just like spectacular. Like Mia Goth is good enough to win an Oscar someday. Unfortunately, you never win for horror, or just rarely do, but Mia Goth is that level of talent.
Oh, she's fantastic. Yeah,
she's fantastic in all the movies, and I can't wait to see Maxine.
Hey, yeah, I've heard good things about Maxine as well. And I loved her in Sir Gav's Ethan Hawke did an amazing job of not playing Ethan Hawke. That's so kind of true, but I love it when Ethan Hawke is given the opportunity to break out. And that director he worked with on The Black Phone directed Sinister, which is why the two of them were so comfortable with one another. But in Sinister, he was kind of playing Ethan Hawke. You know, Ethan Hawke if Ethan Hawke were a writer, you know, instead of an actor. So. And this is just to see him break out and play a character and embrace it like that. Fucking just that's why I love.
I can tell you, even my favorite shot in Black Phone where Ethan Hawke leaves the door open, and then the one kid's like, "Don't go up there," and then the camera goes up the stairs and turns the corner, and you see Ethan Hawke sitting by the door just waiting for him to come up with the belt, like not even moving with the mask on, and the camera does this pushing. I was like, "Ooh, okay,
dude,
I see what you're putting down."
Is it me, or is it me? Or did because Ethan Hawke is normally is like a really thin. Normally, he's a very, very slight guy. He's kind of thin. Did he go dad bod in that movie because he was intimidating as fuck? And
he might have.
And I never really like when I visualize Ethan Hawke, even whether he's a vampire or whatever like this. He's a very, very thin guy. He doesn't come off as very like intimidating. He comes off as very cerebral. But in Black Phone. Like, I don't know if he bulked, or whatever, or just like that. But the way he shaped out, I was like, fuck. Weirdly enough, it is the picturesque of the abusive father and, recreating these like that. And I just had that of the drunken father, like, passed out in the kitchen. It's just like, I got that image. And he's like, shit was intimidating as shit. I was like, fucking hell. That guy's scary. This is a scary human being. So that's why I loved Ethan Hawke for that. Fucking awesome shit. Let's see. Oh, Orosbor says, it's you, JL. Yeah, it's probably me. It's probably just me. But yeah, okay. So we've got stuff to talk about tonight. We've got good movies. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. So, Eugene, you're here. Would you like to kick us off?
Absolutely. So first, we are talking about Nope, which was released July 22nd, 2022. Roll it.
Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, there we go. Cue up the Terror Tube.
Back or I'll shoot. Back, I mean it. I'll shoot. Stop there. George, look out. I told you to stay back.
Fuck yeah.
Did you know that the very first assembly of photographs to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? And that man is my great-great-grandfather.
Great.
There's another great-grandfather. But that's why back at the Haywood Ranch, as the only black-owned horse trainers in Hollywood, we like to say since the moment pictures could move, we had skin in the game.
She was so good.
Oh, she was. She held her own against a heavyweight, too.
Oh, yeah.
What's a bad miracle? They got a word for that?
Yeah, nah. Run!
All right. That is Nope, written and directed by Jordan Peele, starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yen, Michael Wincott, Brandon Pierre, and Keith David. And the premise is you have a group of ranch owners that have to deal with I don't want to spoil what it is just yet, so I'm just going to say have to deal with a threat that is threatening everybody around them. And shit gets real.
So I know that this came out in 2022 and we have a 5-year moratorium on spoilers, and we're not going to talk about, we're not going to spoil like what turns out. I think I think it's safe to assume that the vast majority of people, like, they know, they have an idea as to what is going on in the film, and having, given the prevalence of it and how excellent the film was. But the big things about this one, and I would think, in my personal opinion, I think that post Get Out and post Us, and while I consider Us to be the weakest of his written and directorial projects, just because when I started thinking about it afterwards, the movie kind of fell apart. But Nope there is so much going on, and yet it's so simple. A veritable cornucopia of these complex topics, not just characterizations, but also perspectives that are going on at the same time, backdropped against this extremely minimalist setting, because virtually the entire film is set in the area which is make sure I pronounce it right, Agua Dulce, California. Anybody familiar with that area of California is literally a 23 square mile area with a population of about 3,300 people as of 2010. It is sparsely populated. The people live in the large tracts of land. That's why the horse ranch is out there. And so you have these beautiful landscapes of Agua Dulce, just the canyon area. Okay, sparsely populated by plants, but it's pretty sparse with this wide open, gorgeous sky. Completely open, and it's that almost agoraphobia inducing sensation that Peele was going for, which I thought was brilliant, coming on the back end of the pandemic, because for the longest time we were terrified about going outside. and he was able to capture that very essence in sense, like the danger is simply walking outside your door. And we lived it. We were secluded for so long. Everybody was locked down, and there was all these problems that came about it. So he comes and he delivers a movie that's ostensibly about the staying inside and being afraid to step outside your door and go outside, reflecting. And that's what I fucking love Peele for, his ability to capture what is haunting, or the things that ail society at the time, and reflect them in his storytelling. And it goes much deeper than that. Like everything from the Gordy situation at the very, very beginning that sets up the whole concept of the bad miracle, on through to the various relationships, and it is just cemented by stellar cinematography, stellar acting across the board, just fucking brilliant filmmaking. Not to mention some of the best effects, I think, of a movie that came out in 2022.
Yeah, that hands down. It's amazing when you give visual artists time to actually do CGI, that it comes out as good, because the effects in this movie are phenomenal. And for cinematography, I'll give a shout out to Hoyt van Hoytman, who, if you don't know him, is probably one of the best 5 working cinematographers, period. Working. He does a lot of Christopher Nolan films, like he did Oppenheimer as well. Interstellar.
You can see the parallels. Holy shit! Like the artistic parallels there. Now that I'm putting them together in my mind, nice.
His style, because it's shot because he also did Dunkirk as well. So it's shot very similar. Yeah, I mean his style is just cinema's kiss right there. And then going back to just Nope itself. I like the characterization. I like how Jordan Peele can take something so simple and he fleshes out his characters. I always believe characterization is the key to a good movie. If you can make real characters that people can root for and can get behind, and that they enjoy watching on the screen, the rest of the movie will just come together. Because when you have this movie doesn't necessarily have a lot of gory kills and a lot of flash and a lot of it's very, very implied. It's like when the movie needed to be shocking, it was shocking, and when it didn't need to be shocking, it wasn't. And that's that real balance that Jordan Peele has really, really mastered. I'm going to get characters that you like. I'm going to say some social commentary that's been in the back of everybody's mind, and then I'm going to shock people when it needs to be shocked.
One thing, you mentioned that, and I think that this is absolutely brilliant, and Peele is fantastic at doing this. Now, one of the things that we see oftentimes is in horror films, you'll have comedic moments that are sprinkled throughout the entire film, and those comedic moments are intended for the audience to be able to catch it, to take a breath, because if the tension goes on too long, it can be very disorienting and can actually you wind up alienating your audience because they're so worn out from it. So comedic moments are those moments for us to decompress before we put the pressure back on. And that's pretty much the formula. But what Jordan Peele, one of the brilliant things that he does, especially in this film right here, is that the moments of decompression are not just for us. They're also for his characters. Because in reality, like us here in the real world, we utilize as a coping mechanism. We often utilize as a coping mechanism, inappropriate or sometimes very, very silly behaviors or actions or whatever, or even thoughts, to try and alleviate ourselves from the tension that we're feeling. Like whatever it might be, whether it's a spontaneous joke or whether it's like an off-kilter, an off-kilter observation, whatever it is, the need to crack a joke and break tension, for our own mental sanity, is something that's prevalent throughout our entire population, throughout our species. And so Jordan Peele puts those moments in there, and they aren't just for us. They're for his characters, allowing us to further identify with them as real people, as these are people that that we could fully fleshed out and acknowledged human beings. And I love how he did that thoroughly throughout Get Out. Love those little moments in Get Out as well. Us, not so much, but Get Out was littered with them as well, because we needed them as much as his characters did to kind of like look at a thing in a way in order to try and compartmentalize it better. We need it as much as they do. And it's the way he humanizes people. The way he humanizes his characters is absolutely stunning. So, it perfectly balanced throughout.
It is. And not to mention, the characters are smart. And that's something... It's always harder to write smart characters because you can't get the easy cop-out. Oh, I need the girl to end up in the basement. So she's like, I hear a strange sound, and goes down the basement. Those are cop-outs in horror films. Whereas where you have them dealing with the danger, they're consistently making smart choices. And whether the choices work out here and there is, regardless, because the threat gets some wins here and there as well. The threat has to win, or there's never any real danger. So you can have that. But when you craft smart characters that come up with good ideas and that respond to certain situations, how we would respond, like staying in the car is like,
yeah, I was just thinking of that moment when he glances. Nope. Stand right here. I'm not going anywhere. It's like, nope. That moment, there's several like key little moments that get me in the film. And one of the things I love this story where we have both characters, both played by Daniel and Kiki, that those two actors, the way they convey their relationship as brother and sister, and their kind of relationship to the farm, and how they both view it through diametric opposition. And so, but the way the two of them interact with everyone else who is around them. And so they interact as a cohesive unit, brother and sister, when they're interacting with other people. So like when Angel comes out, to do his thing, or when the director comes out, Michael Wincott, holy shit. Michael Wincott's kind of like, satire of Werner Herzog in that respect. I loved what he brought to that. He's like, I'm only going to shoot on this very specific film with this very specific camera. And it's like, it's so Werner Herzog, and it's about the art. And I'm so bored with this industry because I cannot make art anymore. And nobody appreciates it because it's about the spectacle. But I love how he had them. When they're together, they are so obviously brother and sister. But when they're dealing with their, like, antagonistically, brother and sisters, like, they're completely thinking differently. But then there's little moments. And that's when they're on the porch and they realize that they just had, like they realize they got what they wanted. And then she turns and they never do it again. And it's so brilliant. It's a brilliant little brother-sister moment when the two of them do the fives. They're like, yeah. Like that. It's spontaneous. But it's something that's familiar to them. And it's a brilliant little moment that makes us smile because we recognize the relationship there. And that's a part of that tremendous acting. And then how they react to people around them. And like I said, Michael Wincott, I've loved Michael Wincott since The Crow, because he was top dollar in The Crow. And I love him whenever he does because he's fucking fantastic. But what he the emphasis of what he is, and Jordan Peele's focus on both the repellent and compelling nature of the spectacle in and of itself, that which we are drawn to watch despite our sense of self-preservation, even if it's the preservation of our mental sanity or our mental health, that we must see these things. Okay, we are virtually compelled to do them, even though the back of our minds, like the primitive side of our minds, are like, no, you have to run. And so the paradox of the spectacle is what's so brilliant on this. Like the whole, the spectacle of the pandemic of what was going on, making everybody terrified to be outside. But being locked in where we were safest was the most detrimental thing to our mental health. We had to go outside. We had to see the sky. But that's where the danger was. And so we live in we create these paradoxical moments for ourselves, whether it's in art or whether it's in any form of media, or whether it's in our own lives or our relationships with each other, and how we compartmentalize these things. I honestly think it's his best work. I do. It is his best film because it speaks to everyone on multiple different levels.
I wouldn't say his best film. I still think his best film is Get Out. Get Out just hit just a whole
a whole list. It works on so many different levels, so many, even beyond just the racial implications of it. Every character, every moment of Get Out is just pure perfection on that, up to the part sinking to the floor. That's an iconic scene. That's when you watch iconic scenes of the 2010s in cinema, or the 2000s, that one just keeps coming up time and time again. But no is up there. It is really, really up there. You want to talk about somebody who has a killer list of your first 3 movies that you've written, directed, not just directed, written and directed. That's a heavy resume to beat. And there's not a lot of directors out there that come close to that.
So one thing I absolutely, and one thing I think is really, really cool, as polished as the film was, Peele has gone on the record himself a number of times, talked about kind of like the desperation behind this whole picture, and that kind of like the desperation to deal with these things internally is kind of what was the inspiration behind this movie, that the desperation caused by the pandemic and our desperate need to survive. And then we see that reflected in a number of the characters around. So, and it was through that desperation that he found a way to, like, and it was, the entity of Jean Jacket. For those who understand that, I don't want to give away too much, but for that entity to reflect that in all of us, it's just literally that survival instinct that we all have, and that we are constantly working to try and compartmentalize that, work with that, to try and abate it, while not, because if we ignore it too long, it does terrible things to us. But from the dad, played brilliantly, a short amount of time, but played brilliantly by Keith David, Daniel Kaluuya's character, Kiki, everybody trying to survive and do their best. Michael Wincott's character in that slight deal, that the only way he's going to survive is if he's able to get the shot, like the actual shot that he's been looking for his whole life, even to the detriment of his own life. Everyone's looking for that handle on the ladder, that rung to hang on to, and it all takes all these different forms, which I think is just absolutely brilliant. It speaks to me on a level that when you get pushed into a corner, as all of us have experienced, how we deal with those, what comes out, the desperation being the mother of invention, and how we are pushed to our when we are pushed to our push to our limits, that is when creativity can truly shine. When you squeeze, you produce. And I always dug that kind of an overarching theme throughout the whole thing, because beyond the horror aspects, this is what horror does. It reflects us. It is us in that respect, in our deepest, darkest, nightmares. And so it brings that out and allows us to deal with those things, which is why I think this is why I put it above Get Out in that respect. Just because I think it handled the feel more ubiquitously than everybody else. And of course, Stephen Yeun's character desperately trying to survive after obviously dealing with the post-traumatic stress of what happened on the Gordy show with the monkey at the very beginning, and everyone just kind of like holding off that self-destruction, or holding off that fall down moment, just to keep going. And it exposes both our kind of like the weakness of our nature, but also kind of like the shark-like tenacity of our nature. Keep moving forward. Never stop moving forward. Don't worry about what's behind you, but you got to. And but we keep doing it. Fuck, man, there's so much in this movie. That's why I loved it so much.
There's so much. And looking at the comment section right here and talking about coming from the comedic background of Key and Peele, I've found that actors that come from a comedy background usually end up being some of the best actors, some of the best writers, because comedy is hands down the hardest genre to do. It really is, because you can make a cheesy slasher film, and if you get some gnarly kills, and people, it's fun, whatever. Or, people dive into just a regular walking, talking drama. You just put enough drama in there, it can be something decent. But comedy is one of those things where it either hits or it doesn't hit. It just hands down, because there's nothing worse than a bad comedy. Anything else can end up being funny, but a bad comedy is just bad to watch, because if it was funny on any level, it would be a good comedy. So comedy's hard.
Movie 43.
Movie 43. So when you look at people like Jordan Peele and all the practice he had doing the skits in Key and Peele, and how you have to be able to study the social construct, because that's what that show did. Key and Peele made fun of social norms and undertones in our society that no one wanted to talk about. And that's exactly what Get Out went straight for. So when you look at even some of these other comedic geniuses like Jim Carrey, where it's like, oh yeah, you're funny in The Mask and Ace Ventura, haha, and then you see him in The Truman Show, and you're like, oh, okay.
There are layers. Yes, there are. Yes, there are layers to this onion. There are layers. Oh, he is telling us something. Holy shit!
It's like, oh, I didn't see that about myself in the world I live in.
Absolutely brilliant shit. I loved it. If anybody out there hasn't seen Nope, it's available on Amazon right now. I definitely recommend you go and watch it. It is stellar across the board. Obviously, Jordan Peele, despite my disappointment with Us was fantastic as far as like your first viewing. But Angel Rivera brings up Robin Williams' 24-hour photo. Or 1 hour photo. 1 hour photo.
Yeah, 1 hour
photo. Yeah. Robin Williams' 1 hour photo was fucking stellar. It's like that. There were moments in there where I forgot I was watching Robin. Because Robin Williams is like, it's so like the very image of him is so evocative that it's often difficult to separate. I was like, I'm watching Mrs. Doubtfire and it's fucking amazing. It's hilarious. Robin Williams is great, But one of the first times I saw him, and he was able to do that with 1 hour photo and with Insomnia. Christopher Nolan, by the way, because Insomnia got me because I was sitting there thinking like, oh, Al Pacino playing the sleep deprived detective. Okay, great. The sleep deprived dirty detective. Oh, that's great. It's Al Pacino. And then Hilary Swank was great like that. But then Robin Williams comes along and I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is a total departure, And I didn't even, and then of course 1 hour photo, I thought it hit me on all kinds of levels. But yeah, comedians, comedians know the dark. So I will give them that, and
they really do. And they're the ones that are able to bring that to the light, and to bring it to the light in a way that people can accept it, instead of just badgering or beating people over the head with it. No, we're going to bring it to light in a way that you can understand and actually think and process what's going on.
Brilliant stuff. Definitely check it out if you get an opportunity. If you haven't seen Nope, we highly recommend it. There's something in that movie for everybody, and I think everybody will. It even ended brilliantly. Like, it ended the best way it possibly could. So yeah, as far as that goes, for a commentary on probably one of the darkest periods, especially in this current generation, what we went through in 2019, 2020, 2021. To come out of that, to see that reflected is really, really important. And Jordan Peele captured it absolutely perfectly, in the best way possible. So I'm going to give it to that. I'm going to lay it there.
Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah. And yeah, Carrie was in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, another fantastic film. But I want to ask the audience, what is the scariest form of jean jacket?
Of the three forms of jean jacket, what was the scariest as it changed forms? That's,
I gotta go middle, not cloud, and not final.
The middle form. So the one we see, the UAP form, the one that we glimpse from time to time. The way. Okay, so I can see that. I would actually say yes. I would agree with that. I would agree with the disc form. I would, because when I don't want to spoil it, because it's such a fucking great moment when when the wailing in the when the high pitched keening of the wind that you hear throughout the first act of the movie, when that's finally explained and you understand what people are hearing, that got me. I was like, oh, that no, that's no good at all. So I know that some people felt like final form, like the angel form, you know, that some people felt that was the most terrifying when it fully like kind of like revealed itself in that respect. And I got that, you know, like Aaron Reese says full open at drift, underwater nightmare in midair. It absolutely was. Aaron Reese mentioned like this is like straight up cosmic horror in broad daylight, you know, is what it is. It's just like what the literal shit. So, but without spoiling too much, I'm gonna have to say the disc form, the UFO form of Jean Jacket, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And the scariest because, you know, because it's like a UFO, but it's a I don't want to spoil it. I can't say it. I don't want to give it too much away for those who haven't seen the movie yet. But Extra J says Jean Jacket. 70s, then 80s was the peak, and 90s it was just on its way out. I love that they call it Jean Jacket because it makes sense. Like everything tracks, even if it seems ridiculous. It absolutely tracks. So, but as I said, you got to experience the movie. Definitely go check that out. Absolutely, the Death Donut, the murder Hoover. All right, but then let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com which form of Jean Jacket did you find the scariest? I'm kind of curious what people's thoughts are on that. Tony Regime, good to see you, bud. The scariest Jean Jacket is with jeans and a denim shirt. Oh yeah, it's pretty terrifying. Pretty terrifying. All right, let's jump on to our next one. And we're going to go kind of deep on this one because we're going to go back a bit. Released July 26th, 1977. We have Night of the Seagulls, which is weird because seagulls don't fly at night. So, but it's Night of the Seagulls. Let's check out this trailer.
I was expecting more seagulls in this movie.
I was expecting more seagulls. I was. Yeah, but let's cue up the terror tube.
A new terror fills the screen with horror. The Night of the Seagulls.
The only seagulls you see.
Where are these women going dressed in mourning? Leading a young girl to sacrifice.
Well, you just answered your own question there, bud.
Mystery surrounds the horsemen from the ancient past. The Night of the Seagulls.
Go.
I set you free.
They're nearly here. Get away, sir. Peter said they died 6 centuries ago. I'm being given up to them so others may be saved. Hurry, you must get away, sir.
I won't leave you here.
Excuse me, I'm just gonna let myself.
Yeah.
Thank you
gotta
very much.
squeeze through here real quick.
Squeeze
Would
through
stand
here.
up against the cruelty and the fanaticism of the dead horseman. The Night of the Seagulls. With Maria Costi, Victor Petit, Sandra Mozorowski, Julie James. The Night of the Seagulls.
What's that?
A beast of the sea. Must be a god belonging to some unknown culture.
What's going to happen to us now?
I don't know. But this idol is responsible for all the sacrifices. Directed by Armando de Osorio, a Pro Films and Ankla Century Films co-production.
So 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Their god was even a sequel.
Yes, that was the trailer for the Night of the Seagulls. I love 70s trailers, how they just, they just go on and on. But surprisingly, as extended as that trailer kind of was, it was the shortest version. The actual original trailer was 5 minutes long, and I wasn't about to show a 5-minute trailer on this friggin' show. So then I wrote the same Night of the Steven Seagulls. Now that's terrifying. It absolutely is. So Night of the Seagulls, also known as Night of the Death Cult, Don't Go Out at Night, and in the original Spanish, La Noche de las Gaviotas, is a horror film written and directed by Armando de Osorio and starring Victor Petit, Maria Costi, Sandra Mozorowski, and Javier de Rivera, as well as Julia Sally and Jose Antonio Calvo. So the film is... The interesting thing about this movie is that this one works as a standalone. But for those who would like to know, this is actually the fourth and final film in Armando de Osorio's Blind Dead tetralogy. So there are actually 3 films before this one. Now, this one being the last one, it's fairly simplistic. You have a couple that's moved to this remote little town where every 7 years for 7 days, these dead Templar knights rise up from the grave and demand sacrifices of the young women that live nearby. So the cultists will go out and grab the young women. They'll sacrifice them to the Templars. And after a week, the Templars go back to their graves and they're down for another 7 years. And of course, this young doctor and his wife, they move into the town. And when the Templars rise, they get involved and put this, shit gets a little crazy. Now, the interesting thing about this particular one is that standalone, it works really, really well. And it's I would say a very, very studious wrap to the Templar saga. The only thing that stood out for me is that it felt very much like, if you couldn't tell by the trailer, is that unlike the original film, like the first 3 films, which was Night of the Blind Dead, I think it was like Night of the Blind Dead, Return of the Blind Dead, The Ghost Galleon, and then Night of the Seagulls. And so this particular one is fairly simplistic. The zombies of the Templar Knights, they rise up, they kill people, they hack them up into pieces, like feed their body to the crabs and shit, which was the opening sequence that you saw. But it's very, very obvious that I think Osorio was just kind of pushing this one, because if anybody noticed from the trailer, this thing is pretty much the story of Shadow over Innsmouth, which is H.P. Lovecraft, and where it's the people come to the town and then they recognize that there's something horrible going on. There's an ancient god being worshipped. It's a cult. So you just replace the cultists worshiping, you place the Templars worshiping this sea god, which is the frog thing that you see, the frog idol that you saw at the end of the trailer. And then the town around them is the cultists that are kind of supporting them. It's very much like the esoteric cult of Dagon. And so everybody in the town is in on it. And then the newcomers arrive, and then shit gets fucking crazy. So in that respect, I found it to be a little on the lazy side that Osorio was just trying to produce something to kind of put a cap on his Blind Dead trilogy, because he ends it with the destruction of the idol, and then it's all over. So it's not bad. It's a decent horror film, but Tombs of the Blind Dead. Thank you very much. Tombs of the Blind Dead. And thank you, Tony Regime. And so I honestly would say as far as this one goes, it's a decent little one, but people are going to notice that it takes way too much from like there's obvious Night of the Living Dead inspirations, obvious Carnival of the Souls inspirations, obvious H.P. Lovecraft inspirations, and those come off just a little too obvious for my taste, despite the really, really decent practical effects. I thought, like the money was well spent in that regard. I thought the Templars looked great. The chopping, when chopping up bodies and shit was well done, but it just came off kind of like a lack of energy, like fairly uninspired, which is a damn shame because the original stuff was really solid.
I mean, I also agree with this one. The effects and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was definitely great. That was definitely fine. The thing I noticed, and I don't know if you picked up on this, in terms of the cinematography perspective.
Right.
This is what happens when you film day for night poorly. If you pay attention, so many of the scenes that you can tell are supposed to take place at night don't take place at night, take place during the day. Now, granted, there are a lot of films that do day for night. And that's perfectly fine. There are a lot of big budget films, and you'll never even know the difference. Because overnight shoots are hard. They're hard on your crew. They're hard on the actor. And plus, on top of that, when you're doing overnight, you always have to have eventually a turnaround. So you end up going back to the day. So you can't do like overnight, all day, overnight, all day. You have these gaps. We have to give the crew time to flip back over their sleeping schedule. So a lot of times what they'll do overnight for like, they'll shoot all the night scenes together. Then the crew would get like 2 days off, and then you shoot all your day scenes together. And then your interior housing stuff maybe just be whenever, just because it's like interior, the sun doesn't matter. I do that all the time. What you notice in this film is a lot of the stuff that's supposed to take place at night has like a blue tint to it. It's like this bluish or kind of purple tint that's like, it's supposed to be this night feel, but then you see like shadows, and you're like, the moonlight doesn't hit people as hard as the sun does. And so what ends up happening is they end up shooting during the day, kind of add some kind of blue color gel or something to it.
Yeah, it looked like a gel. It looked like a gel to me. They just gelled. Yeah. Like, they just gelled the light. Yeah.
And then it was kind of like all right, we're done. And I'm like, you can see there's obviously like sunlight behind them. And it's supposed to take when they're on the beach, when you have the Knights Templar riders that are riding up, whenever they're outside.
It was really obvious in the whole ending sequence when they steal the undead horses and they're riding and they do it. And I don't know why Asario decided to do that. Those sequences in slow motion, like the blah, 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 blah. I was I don't know what the purpose. Thing. I just don't know what the purpose of this is, because those horses are not galloping. Those horses are cantering. If for those who know that, I was like, that horse isn't even like, it doesn't even reflect it. So it's like a canter, but it's even slower and it's got the echoing, like what they did with the sound mixing there to get that kind of like ethereal view that these horses are not natural. And so they're kind of conveying that. I was like, very weird. It seemed like very, very cheap choices. Okay. Like it just lent it to the whole concept that Asario was just trying to get a movie out and did as little work as possible. Because if you compare this to Tombs of the Blind Dead, Return of the Blind Dead, even the Ghost Galleon, and the Ghost Galleon for a third one in the film, Ghost Galleon was by far superior to this one just because of the level of, because that whole place, number one, the whole thing pretty much takes place on a giant ship. So they actually filmed it on this big ass ship and I thought that the Templars looked fantastic and, it was great, but this one just feels like tacked on, just do something really quick. Very, very, I guess I want to say efficient to a fault, so like get it done. It had a very get it done vibe to the whole thing. Yeah. Especially in the pacing of the narrative, we got to hit these specific beats, and then we'll get to our action pieces, which, ostensibly are also, are a little bloodless in that respect. Because the prior three films going in were so much stronger in the level of, whether it was the depictions of violence or the practical effects used or even the use of the Templars. You know, it was such it's okay, but it could have been so much better, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the kind of feeling behind it. It's like, it's okay. Now, granted, and I'll admit, I haven't seen the other three, so I cannot compare to the others, which we get to them eventually. But yeah, it's kind of like that's kind of how I felt like watching it. I was like, okay, yeah, that's not something that stands out. Now that you mention it, that it seemed kind of quick and cheap, and it could have been a whole number of reasons. It could have been budgetary reasons. It could have been they had a strict deadline they had to make, or maybe it was just like sometimes that check has enough zeros that get you back in to do it when you kind of really don't want to.
One thing I dug is that coming upon Night of the Seagulls introduced me to the Blind Dead tetralogy. So 4 films of the whole sequence, and basically following the these undead Templar knights that constantly come back for revenge. If anybody's familiar with the Templars, that this cult of, like, you could call them esoteric Christians, Christian knights that, fell into witchcraft and other craziness, and were eventually they wound up being put to death. And so the idea of these things rising up very similarly to basically carry out revenge or to do whatever, to work against the living before they return to their graves. Going all the way back to Tombs of the Blind Dead, which came out in 72, because these things came out in relatively quick succession. Tombs of the Blind Dead was 72, Return of the Blind Dead was in 73, and Ghost Galleon was in 74. So it was like 1 year after the other. And so that, I think that's why Night of the Seagulls felt so tacked on, because he had this story that he wanted to run. But by the end of it, you're probably so exhausted from all of the exterior shots. Now, I will give him that. The cinematography, despite the issues with, like, the coloring and everything, and, like, trying to trade day for night and everything, the vistas, the areas that they were shooting are absolutely beautiful. The areas in Portugal where they were shooting on location are ancient and have a vast amount of history. Virtually everything in there was already standing. They didn't have to build sets for these things. Osorio has such a fantastic knowledge of the rural interior of Portugal and Spain. He knows just where to go to capture, to be able to shoot what he wants. The whole cave sequence was shot within an actual cave. It was not a stage. So they went in there and they just made it work. So did it, using everything that he has available to him, all practical effects, which is absolutely lovely. I mean, nothing goofy added in or anything silly. Just a good homage to I think stronger directors in that respect, like Romero. Thought he knocked it out of the park there. Ultimately, though, I wouldn't start with Night of the Seagulls. I wouldn't. I would go with probably Tombs of the Blind Dead, any of the previous 3. Another thing that got me was the lasting effect on this, because I can't deny, now that I've seen this, okay, 1977, and then I went back and I checked out the rest of the Blind Dead movies, okay? They pretty much all follow the same points. This one had a lot more in common with H.P. Lovecraft's Shadow over Innsmouth, but I can't deny that there are so much connective tissue, and correct me if I'm wrong, or call me out if you think I'm wrong, between this and John Carpenter's The Fog. Because even though elements were changed and they added the fog element, which makes it that much creepier because it's the fog rolling in like this. Mm-hmm. I saw even though, like, Stephen King came out with his short story, which was The Mist, and I think The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog, took elements from that as well, took the Mist element from that. But I think that Osario's Blind Dead movies heavily informed Carpenter in his depiction of these undead entities returning from the grave to seek their revenge or to seek justice for something before returning. And there were so many shots, little moments in here that throughout the 4 films that I think informed Carpenter and Carpenter's cinematography there. that I just don't think you can deny it. So the lasting effects of this grouping of 4 films throughout, you'll see those similar things in movies that we've watched even recently. So, and I think that this is one of those kind of collections of films, because it's Spanish, it's a Spanish horror film collection that really informed American filmmaking in the horror genre more than we were aware, given where it was at. I think that this is a deeply influential collection of films from a director that Armando de Osorio was a legend in Spain. His movie Malenka the Vampire's Niece, legendary film. That's what put him on the map. So I think that I kind of stumbled upon, or inadvertently stumbled upon, a really important piece of filmmaking that I wasn't really aware of as how important it was, which I think is what makes the Blind Dead tetralogy so good, despite the weakness of Night of the Seagulls.
I mean, I don't know. I can definitely see some elements that John Carpenter may have taken for The Fog. I can see that. I don't know if it's one of those where it's that influential. And what I mean that level of influence is, for example, like Carnival of Souls is one of the most influential films in horror.
Right.
And that film doesn't get enough praise at all because Night of the Living Dead just overshadows it. I don't know if it's just of that caliber of it.
Oh, yeah, I would say it's I wouldn't say it's a
kind
bad,
of see a little bit of it. I mean,
I think when
we'll never know
director
John Carpenter saw it. Yeah.
Oh, I have no doubt he saw it. I have no doubt that Carpenter saw that. Carpenter loved shit like that. I mean, I just see, if you looking at the stuff that he does, and of course his love for H.P. Lovecraft as well, I have no doubt that he probably checked this out, because it has Shadow over Innsmouth written all over it. I could definitely feel even though the 4 films, even though Tombs of the Blind Dead did not start that way with this kind of Lovecraftian feel to it, this one pretty much was. And I'm just going to go in that direction. It's an interesting little addition to the horror genre, these 4 films. I wouldn't just take Night of the Seagulls on its own, but I would say of these 4 films, an interesting little addition that deserves a kind of a re-examination, just by virtue of how I think influential it was, and people just aren't aware of it. These obscure foreign horror films, that I think that only the most diehard of fans will really be aware of. And so I think that it deserves a little bit more attention than I think it initially got, or it even gets today. So I would like to put it out there as that. That's what makes this film so important. So Ronaldo's name says, well, it was no Night of the Lepus. Night of the Lepus. So yes, giant rabbits. Yes. So the kicker that I want to ask, and I actually had an idea for a question for the audience before this one, but I'm actually going to change it up a little bit, because not many people have seen these 4 films, so I'm not gonna rely on that. But here's the idea: I'm curious, given that The Fog came out in 1980, and then we had the remake that was trash, that never needed to be done. But that doesn't necessarily mean remakes of films are bad. So I'm curious, could the Blind Dead films be remade? Are they remake worthy? Could we see could we do it again? The rise of the undead Templar Knights coming back to do do whatever. We could pretty much follow Osario's scripts and run off that. But are these films remake worthy, given the interesting nature of the undead villains that are in this, the undead Templar Knights, with the very obvious imagery of them with their swords and their armor and shit, and then they rise up, they do their thing. I personally think yes. I think Tombs of the Blind Dead could absolutely be revealed. As a matter of fact, be remade. I think actually you could take elements from all 4 films, make a cohesive movie that covers the entire thing from like opening, from like the start of it, with their background, all the way up to the toppling of the undead, of like the sea god that they worship, that they cut hearts out and they put it in its mouth and shit. So you could wrap all 4 films into one cohesive narrative to follow the whole thing, and utilizing practical effects of today you could get some really terrifying undead monsters. I think it would be really good. But that's my thoughts. What do you think?
So I would have to see the rest of them before to judge, because you may be right. And if you took all 4 of them and condensed them to one movie, that it could be well done. So I can't speak of the other 3. Of this one, I'm kind of iffy on, because I think the premise is a little hard to sell. Where it's like, well, Knights Templars come back from a sacrifice. It sounds like something you would see on the Sci-Fi Channel, not a theatrical release. And I mean, you could make a really good version of it. It's just, if someone pitched that idea to me, I would instantly think Sci-Fi Network.
Yeah, I can imagine. I imagine so. I think that that there are elements in each one of the films that lends itself to be really, really good. I think like the whole like the stuff that's happening on the boat would be fantastic if it was like because it's on a galleon. If you the decrepit galleon in the bay, I think would just be fantastic. Fighting with undead Templar knights would be great with today's practical effects, because unfortunately for Osorio at the time, when you look at them, there's very obvious moments when the undead Templar is obviously a person with a lot of prosthetics on, with a lot of like latex prosthetics on and a lot of makeup. So you can tell it's very obvious. And then as opposed to the other moments when it is so obviously a puppet when it's moving, like, and then and they pretty much balanced out like, they had to have real people riding the horses. So, but it's so very obvious because, if you put a puppet on the horse, it'd be like, it's not going to move right. But I think with today's special effects, today's practical effects, which would blow Osario's mind, I think it would. He passed away in 2001. I think that you could make an interesting sci-fi film.
I think you could.
You could just call it The Blind Dead. You could call it The Blind Dead. And
I mean, and I think what sarcasm says is correct, where maybe films that weren't great in the initial, those are the ones that really deserve the most to remake, because instead of going after all these like good IPs and then we get these, soulless remakes, let's go after an IP that's not as established. It doesn't really have a big following, that you can have way more creative freedom with and refine it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Robert Biter, good to see you, says, I made it a bit late, though. We'll have to rewatch this. Nope is one of my favorite recent movies. Awesome. We had a good chat about that one. Great fucking movie. And yeah, I would say, I think you could. I think that you could take all 4 of these films, pull elements out, and you could wrap it up into one and make a pretty decent sci-fi movie. They call it just, The Blind Dead. You just call it The Blind Dead. And cover like these undead Templar knights. You could even weave a little mystery into this, like what are these things, and then reveal them as like you unveil the god, and like that. Oh, Templar knights! Oh my god! So yeah. I think it would be fantastic. Holy shit! McKinnon Mitchell Studios is in the house. Good to see him. McKinnon Mitchell says late as hell. Yeah, it's been a few months, but thank you so much for being here, bud. I know you're busy. I know you're cranking it out. I hope everything is going well with you. So glad to see you. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, bud. So yeah, let us know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com if like the Blind Dead tetralogy could be remade. Could it be condensed down into one film? And with today's practical effects, make a really compelling undead Templar knight sacrifice, evil gods movie. I think it would be fantastic. I think with today's stuff, it could probably be in the vein of like Dagon. Because Dagon is so like sci-fi style, but it's Stuart Gordon. Stuart Gordon was fucking great. So I think it could be done. But let us know down in the comments below if you agree. All right. Now this is fun. Okay, this is gonna be great shit. Take it away, dude. I'll let you. Let's move on to our third one. What do we got?
So up next we have Psycho Cop Returns, released July 27th, 1994. Roll it.
Yes, sir, officer.
Larry, I think it's that cop.
I doubt if Officer Inbred has a fax machine in his car. Yeah.
Oh my God, I was right! I'm never right!
This you bugger.
I should have told you. I'll never take a desk job. This is gonna be fun.
And it's Psycho Cop Returns, directed by Adam Rifkin, starring Dave Bean, Barbara Nevin, Julia Strain, John Paxton, Miles Dougal, Justin Carroll, Ron Switzer, Nick Vallelonga, and Robert R. Shafter. And basically, it's pretty straightforward. You have a satanic cop that goes around killing people that he believes has broken the law in a very, very pun-like fashion a lot.
Like the movie is 90% one-liners from like virtually every character in the film as far as like script goes. But obviously we have to Travis Brown, I will agree. More brutal than Maniac Cop I would say more brutal than Maniac Cop 2. I will agree with that. But here's the Extra J says, "Oh my God, this is more 90s than a band from television VHS tape." It's so true. Here's the big kicker on Psycho Cop. Now, earlier in the season, we had the pleasure of talking about Maniac Cop and Maniac Cop 2. Okay? Now, there were two franchises. Actually, technically, there's Maniac Cop 2, and Maniac Cop 3. So, you know, he got through. So, so that actor got 3 films. Psycho Cop only got 2, and Psycho Cop came after the Maniac Cop series. So obviously, Psycho Cop is drafting off of the success of Maniac Cop, because Maniac Cop came out and it was Robert Dazar. Robert Dazar was an amazing actor, is very imposing dude, and just made for a compelling villain. And the social commentary at the time when those movies came out was actually pretty hot, with some hot button issues that it was addressing in the way it was doing it. And there was as much excellent commentary as there was like violence and craziness. Now when Maniac Cop 2 did the whole like Lethal Weapon 2 approach, ramped up the action, ramped up the stunts, explosions and death. It was just absolutely fucking crazy. So that's why I like the Maniac Cop series. Psycho Cop tries to do that thing. It is obviously drafting off of superior work. It is doing that like a cop in, like tailgating in a high-speed pursuit. Psycho Cop is trying desperately to draft off of Maniac Cop. The problem is Psycho Cop Returns, or Psycho Cop 2, and this is my opinion, was too little too late. Because the thing that made Maniac Cop great, not just the performance of Robert Dazar as the bad guy, as the officer, but everybody that was in it was just fantastic. The first Psycho Cop didn't explore that, and it was just a slasher for slasher's sake, where the slasher happened to like be masquerading as a police officer, and it focused so much on the violence, but there was no real commentary there. Just a crazy person who escaped from an asylum, and then went on a rampage, and then he's empowered by Satan and shit like that. But this one, Psycho Cop tries to add in some of that commentary that we got in Maniac Cop. The whole ending sequence, okay, of the VHS taping of everybody gathered together and beating the shit out of the bad guy in the street. Obviously, a hallmark to the Rodney King scenario of what went down. Even the quality of the tape was almost identical in that respect. But I felt that the reason Psycho Cop didn't get a third film, whereas Maniac Cop did, is because it took too long to capitalize on what is important about horror films, which is that the thing that it reflects what from our society, you know, and it's just a little, like I said, too little too late on that one, you know. So it tries to make up for it with the comedy and the one-liners, and I got to give it to Robert Schaefer. He's great. You know, he has like fantastic one-liners that is like, you have the right to remain silent because you're dead. Anything you have to say would be really strange because you're dead.
You're dead.
Just like that. I found his approach to the character lovable. I love the energy he brought to it. He's just so fucking silly and just great. He's the one thing I enjoyed, whereas everybody else is just dumb and getting smoked. But it's not enough to save it. You know, you can ramp up all the violence you want, but it's so obvious what you're trying to do.
So the issue here is whenever you have an IP that's so close to another IP, is people are going to treat it the same. So yeah, this is only the second installment in the Psycho Cop franchise, but people are going to view it as the fifth film.
Good point. Good point.
They are, because the names are too similar, where it's almost they're interchangeable. So not to mention, this film has all the hallmarks of a franchise that doesn't know where to go. So we'll have some quirky one-liners, and we'll have some stupid people for the fodder who will die in stupid different ways, and then we'll add a little bit of commentary in the very end, because like the commentary isn't necessarily spread all the way throughout. It's just him just smoking people just left and right in creative ways, where it's like, you should have listened carefully. I said I wouldn't shoot her. Bah, and breaks her neck.
Breaks her neck, yeah. I will say that it did it feel at all to you like Schaefer was improvising some of those lines, or it's just the way he delivered them? Shockingly, such a simple film. You know, not a cop. He's not a police officer, but the evil cop is like stalking the party and killing all the bad people, whatever, like that, in that respect, and doing crazy like mounting him up on the wall with satanic, because he's satanically empowered. But I found his delivery of his goofy ass lines, of his so many one-liners. I found his delivery fairly organic. It almost felt like he was like, you know, it's like, hey, Schaefer, this is the sequence. This is what you're going to do. Give us your best lines. It almost felt Apatow-ish in its approach. Just let the actor go into the scene and do the thing, and just whatever rolls off the top of his head, just run with it and see what's the funniest and what comes out. Everyone else felt scripted but him, because everyone else felt like a really bad line reading, except for Schaefer. You know, Schaefer's felt organic, like off the cuff, you know, just, yeah, because some of them kind of land, some of them don't, you know, just like it. But that's the one saving grace of this movie.
Yeah, they could have let him kind of improv. And you're right, it kind of has a little bit of that feel, because the rest of the acting in this film is not great.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's not great. And honestly, the reason why this never got a third one is because it's not a great film. It's not. If you want to throw something on for background noise that you can occasionally look up and see a cool kill, then it fits the bill perfectly. Yeah. But it's not something that I wouldn't invest again a lot of time. Oh, you know what? I need to go back and rewatch the Psycho Cop
Psycho Cop
franchise. It's just not one of those films.
There's this one moment where that popped into my head, and that's a sequence when he just kills the security guard. He kills him with the pencil. He's like, ha, kills him with the pencil in the eye, and then he's got this, and he's like, so the dude's dead. And then there's this moment where Schaefer is like standing there, and he's looking at him, is like, and then he looks up, because that's where the party's happening. He's in the lobby. He's got to go up to where the party is. And he's like, why? He's like, and as he's starting to leave, he's like, because he's always kind of riffing. He's like, why don't you stay here? And it was almost like he was thinking about it like on the fly. He's like, why don't you stay here and keep an eye out? Like he's cracking himself up, you know, like he's like, oh shit, that was good. Yeah, that was funny. he's coming up with these jokes, and it just felt so good. He's the only reason to really watch it, because it offsets a lot of how bad the film actually is. Especially, it's one thing when the film is bad and poorly acted. It's another thing when you have a character that is fucking annoying as shit, and the nerd character, if I remember correctly, that was Brian, played by Miles Dougal, was fucking obnoxious. He was the one who yelled like, "Oh my god, I was right!" That guy, he's like that through the whole fucking movie.
Oh,
and
it's so funny.
The novelty of that lasts about 3 seconds, about the length of time you saw in the trailer. When it's like that kind of like weird energy throughout the whole thing. Now I will say, because there's 2 red herrings when you think he gets killed twice and he doesn't die, so his reactions to when he's supposedly dying are actually kind of funny, because he gets the axe in the back and it's like, ah, and then he just like falls over. The movie is so fucking goofy that you'll spend more time laughing than you will, or maybe a couple, there's some moments where you'll yawn. Plenty of TNA for the TNA fans. But ultimately, unlike Psycho Cop 1, which was a bare bones, straight up slasher, did put more emphasis on the violence and the brutality. This one really, really leans into the comedy, and I think the only saving grace is Robert R. Schaefer, who brings Officer Joe Vickers to life in this one, and he's at moments he is really fucking. He's never scary. It's not a scary character, but it's that kind of like, it's almost, how to describe it? It's almost Deadpoolian in its kind of irreverence for it's almost like he knows he's in a movie. He has that kind of like almost preternatural awareness, because he knows because he's empowered by Satan. He knows he can't be killed and shit like that. He's like, I'll heal from any injury or whatever, blah blah blah. But it gives it this kind of like almost Deadpoolian energy to him, which I'm going to start using that as a descriptor. Deadpoolian
energy.
Yeah, Deadpoolian energy. I'm gonna start using that. But I have to hand it to Robert R. Schaefer, who actually managed to salvage something out of this abomination of a film, because the film is not good.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. But I will say, for as bad as it is, there were some moments where I fucking caught myself, because I'm sitting here watching it like, okay. and it just kind of tickled me. It got me right in my like 5-year-old funny bone, where I'm kind of like, I'm a stupid guy. This is funny. It's stupid male humor. So just that stupid slapsticky, nonsense. I still laugh at Three Stooges on occasion. I find this shit like,
well, the Three Stooges are funny,
right? And the sad thing is that Schaefer's alone. For there to be Three Stooges comedy, you need the Stooges. You need all 3 of them. There's no one here to play off Schaefer, to effectively play off of him. So he is literally carrying the fucking movie on his shoulders, which I hate that idea. You got to have at least one likable person, to at least play off of. But nonetheless, it's, too little too late in that respect. Maniac Cop nailed it with both the commentary on the police relationship with the public and the shit that was going on in California at the time, the reports that were coming out of institutionalized corruption and shit like that. And then all of a sudden Maniac Cop drops, and it's like, holy fuck, So that hit with a no air, and Psycho Cop just tries to, kind of like, draft off that, and just,
listen, one person was trying.
Yeah.
One person was trying.
One person was trying. I think Schaefer did it because he likes the, from interviews that I've seen, Schaefer really liked the character. He just enjoyed the character because he got to kind of like just be the goofy one-liner drop-in kind of like crazy person and try to make people laugh as much as possible. Even though it's not a comedy movie, it's a horror movie. But in that respect, I got to give it to him. Schaefer's a bit of an understated legend. His biggest thing was the Psycho Cop series. But yeah, I'd like to see him return. I don't know. What about you? I think I'd like to see him come back and play Joe Vickers one more time. I think that would be funny as fuck.
I mean, sure. It can't get any worse. So, yeah, why not?
the way it ended, the way the thing ends, because it ends on such a deal, like, you know, they all get it, like, they don't kill him. He winds up getting admitted to the hospital. And then there's like this craziness that goes down in this closed room that he walks out and it's like, aha, he's all healed. He's all healed. He's back normal. He's like, and then literally kills a bunch of police officers, kills a bunch of doctors and nurses, steals a doctor's outfit, and then comes out of the room, pulls the mask off, and it's him. He's completely healed up, ready to go, walks out of frame, end credits. That's it. Like, that's all. So Sir Kev says, okay, enough turd polishing. Let's move on to the diamond in the rough, please. Hey, you can't polish this one, but I will give credit where credit is due. I will give credit because Robert R. Schaefer deserves it for doing what he could with a character and trying to just run with it and have fun. I kind of like Warwick Davis in the Leprechaun films. Leprechaun 3, 4, 5, like all the ones that he was in, those things firmly held on the shoulders of Warwick Davis. The only reason to watch those things is because Warwick Davis loved playing the character of Lubdan. Okay, that's pretty much it. You'd only watch it for what everyone else is just garbage. And they got progressively worse as it went on.
They got worse real quick.
Really quick. But Warwick Davis, always a blast to watch. I think Robert Schaefer, as Officer Joe Vickers, deserves the same kind of respect. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. I won't stick to it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So anyways, I want to...
Okay, so ignore what I wrote there. Ignore what I wrote there because I'm sitting there looking at it and it... Actually, no. Well, hang on a sec. Now I remember why I wrote that, even though it's...
Okay, you may have to ask this one because I don't know.
I wrote that question terribly. The question that we wanted to ask the audience. These kinds of Warwick Davis, okay, but these types of movies, the killer cop movie, okay, Psycho Cop, Maniac Cop got 3 films, Psycho Cop got 2. These types of movies, have they been outdone by reality itself? The sense is, what I wanted to ask, what I'm asking is, can we still make, I mean, is reality and our relationship with the police and how the police are portrayed, both in the media and in other places, however, like respect, we don't see supernatural evil cops anymore. Like the supernatural slants to them. Because the media has predominantly portrayed them as it's bad enough that we don't need the supernatural element to make them bad. So what I was kind of curious about, people's thoughts that this might goes a little deeper than I think that, like this subject probably deserves. But I was wondering why we never see, when's the last time you saw a supernatural evil cop movie?
There's not a lot of evil cop movies out there to begin with. There's a
lot of evil cops or corrupt cops.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. But no supernatural elements, no Satanism, no rising from the dead, no black magic shit, no nothing. It's all just evil people. And I'm wondering, is that because reality and our relationship with the horror genre and what the horror genre means to us, reality has outdone the fictional in this respect? We could just make movies based on bad people. We don't need to give them like souped up, trumped up supernatural powers to make them scary anymore. They're scary all on their own. And that was what I was wanting to ask is the reason why we don't see these movies anymore because reality kind of has outdone it. So, yes, even something as stupid as Psycho Cop 2, I will take it in a deep philosophical direction and wonder why we don't see these things. Why is art not imitating life? Because life is too fucking scary. That's where I went with that. So, but yeah. I had deep thoughts. Yeah, Psycho Cop 2, I had deep thoughts.
Yeah, you thought way more into it than I did. way more. With it. And I think it's more of a change in just a lot of things. When you look at, say, for example, the Joker, where the Joker usually had some kind of chemical spill or something like that to become the Joker. And then you look at, like, Heath Ledger's approach or Joaquin Phoenix's approach, where it's just society.
Right.
Yeah, like there's no like there's nothing that made him go insane. It's just not. He's just personal experience. So I think more it's the changing of the times where it's like now we know people can go crazy and be that level of evil without having any kind of supernatural or anything special happen to them.
Right. It just struck me while I was watching. I was kind of like, these kind of ended off in the 90s, post the Rodney King incident. And once the public's view of the police shifted as a result, predominantly as a result of the media itself, because that's where they were getting most of their information. And people have a tendency to remember the bad more than they remember the good. And all of the good that the police do every single day is sadly overshadowed by the few rotten apples that spoil that bunch, which is just the fucking misery of it. But I'm sitting there wondering like why we only get corrupt cops, bad cops, evil cops. We only get those types of films anymore, which either are horror films or they're like they're like hard thrillers. But we don't get like the supernatural element anymore. And I was like wondering why that is. Fuck, dude. It's probably because as a result of the media, there's just no market for it anymore because they're bad enough they're portrayed to the public as bad enough on their own. We just tell stories about what reflects reality. We don't need to add supernatural elements to it because if you add the supernatural elements to it, you will actually divest the audience from that because they know that the police out there on the street are not supernatural. That's a person. It's much scarier to have them as people with no supernatural elements whatsoever, And that's what I think it got me. Whereas Maniac Cop and Psycho Cop capitalized on the idea of a superpowered, unstoppable, evil police officer because the public's view of the police was so much different than it is than it is today from the 90s to the 2000s and today. And so because that shift in public perception, that's the reason we don't see these movies anymore. But that was my thought, and I was kind of curious. I wanted to get people's thoughts on that in the comment section. So yeah, if you're going to comment, there's something deep to comment on. So just where I was going with that. Anyway, so thank you so much, Sarcasm, who gifted 5 memberships to the Army of the Dead. We do appreciate that, bud. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate that. John Monahan, good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out. All you new channel members, enjoy all of the very cool emojis, the horror icon emojis I've made for you. I'm very proud of them, so enjoy those. And, of course, the channel badge as well. And Angel Vera says, JL, you should write a script of a paranormal cop that goes after First Amendment auditors. See, that's even if I did that, I feel inclined to simply write a revenge story. But the cop doesn't need to be supernatural in that. It could just be people. Bunch of First Amendment auditors, end up destroying the cop's life, and for whatever reason, for whatever reason, and then they seek revenge. Whether it's justified or not is irrelevant, but the officer then seeks revenge, and so, but even that feels like something real. That feels like I don't need to give him supernatural powers anymore. I don't. So it's just it's wild, Travis Brown says, so JL, say the meaning of 28 Days Later where humans are the real monsters than the monsters themselves. Pretty much, yeah. What's going on in reality has overshadowed anything that we could come up with fictionally. So probably why we don't see these movies anymore. You see horror films embrace the monsterification of the innocuous or the beneficial. Okay? To see that which you trust twisted against you, whether it's the home you live in or the objects that you trust in your life or the people that you know and love. The husband is actually a serial killer. The house is actually haunted. The car itself is alive. The object, the random object you find is cursed. It's the things that it's the innocuous being twisted into something dark and unrecognizable. The recognizable becoming unrecognizable. That's where real horror is. That playing on the fact that we don't know everything. That the unknown has come back to bite us and that we let ourselves open to it because we became complacent or some shit like that. You don't see that with these types of movies. I mean, you just can't make these types of movies anymore because the general public just doesn't see them that way anymore.
You've thought way too much into this.
Yeah. Well,
it's a big movie that might make you chuckle it's a bad movie that make you chuckle every once in a while.
But there's meaning there. It's gotta be. It's like I'm watching Psycho Cop Returns, and I'm sitting there like the fucking thinker. What is this saying about our society today? So anyway, what is the lack of these films saying about the general awareness?
And I'm just like, these characters are stupid.
Leave it to me to overthink some shit. All right, let's move on to our last one for the night. We got so fucking good. Released July 27th, 2006. We have the Korean horror film The Host. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
Det luktar verkligen klister. Fast hon påstår att allsammans är syntetiskt. Men vanligt bondklister, det är vad det är. Mig lurar hon inte.
Where am I from? I am from you.
Mr. Kim, formaldehyde, dirty formaldehyde. Pour him into the sink.
Herschel, no!
I've heard your daughter's still alive. Why didn't you contact the police or the military, a human rights organization, something?
Yes, that was the trailer for the Korean horror film The Host. So I'm going to see if I can knock these out as best I can. Written and directed by Bong Joon-ho and starring Song Kang-ho, Byun Hee-bong, Park Hae-il, Bae Doona, and Go Ha-sung. I practiced. So the film follows a family who owns a small snack shop on the beach in South Korea. And one day, the youngest daughter is kidnapped by a monster that comes up out of the Han River, a mutated monstrosity that jumps up out of nowhere, starts rampaging around, winds up kidnapping her, and the family goes on a mission to try and rescue the daughter. And shit, I would say shit does get real in this particular one. But an absolutely fantastic monster film from the director of Snowpiercer. Bong Joon-ho is a magnificent director who walks into everything with an amazing vision, knows exactly what he wants, and does the best. It does the absolute best with minimal prep time and very little to work with. The commitment to bringing this to fruition, despite the low budget that the film was operating with, and to give us a monster of this caliber, both not only CG effect, not only digital, but practical as well, a la Jurassic Park, okay? With the budget that they had is absolutely astounding. And just goes to show, very much like people are making comparisons today of Godzilla -1, where on a budget of $15 million, they were able to do that, like what you saw in Godzilla -1 for 15 mil, which is like nothing. And then you look at some of the shit coming out here in America and you're like, what? Like, what the fuck is this cost like $100 million? What the shit are we doing here? Absolutely. But just goes to show who you know, who you work with, because the monster itself was designed by Weta Workshop and brought together by the Orphanage, who was a special effects company out of LA, did magnificent work. And across the board, Bong's direction is outstanding. Writing, characterization, the monster itself. NAU Snowpiercer did not suck. Okay. But thank you very much for the 5 memberships you gifted to the Army of the Dead. I feel I'm so conflicted at the moment. But nonetheless, but yeah, the things that I could go on about this thing, it's just, it got me that when I found out how low the budget was, you know, for him to bring a kaiju horror film. What would we say is a kaiju? Yeah, the thing is big.
It's big. I don't know if I would say kaiju.
Big.
But it's
okay, maybe not kaiju. Maybe not kaiju, but it's a big fucking monster. Okay? For him to take that and run with it and give us this wonderful story. That, yes, Joshua Lee brings up, not to mention the underlying story of man being the bigger monster. It absolutely is, because I didn't know if you were aware that the story is actually based on an actual event.
Oh, I did not know that.
So the host is like the premise of the film is that this monster was created because somebody working on the United States on one of the military bases in South Korea up and one day ordered one of their people to dump a shit ton of formaldehyde down the drain into a system that dumps directly into the Han River. So that was like ordered to be done. So it came out that happened. Now, obviously, there was no monster involved, but it contaminated a large section of the Han River, and it took a good long while to clean up. And it resulted in like the movement of fish stocks, and people's lives were disrupted. And it was more of a monetary issue that they spent all this money to try and clean up their error, and the U.S. government never really came off like they gave a shit. It's kind of like, whatever, like they don't care. And the South Korean government never really came off like they gave a shit either. So this movie, The Host, is inspired by the kind of like, predominantly by the relationship between the United States and South Korea post-Korean War, obviously, what's going on there. But the kind of like tensions that arise there, that the United States and the military personnel, that they really don't give a fuck about the South Korean people, and that the South Korean government is kind of beholden to them to the point of near incompetency. And that is what in this movie allows the monster to be created. And despite reports of something swimming in the Han River that's then all of a sudden it gets out of control, and the government doesn't act until it's late. So the social commentary is there, as per Korea's relationship with the United States and the United States military, and the general kind of like deliberate unawareness, or the kind of like they put the blinders on in the South Korean government that they don't really act until they need to act. And so it falls on us, the people, to come up, and if you want anything to get done, you got to fucking do it yourself. So that commentary is there. And so the host actually takes inspiration from actual events, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yeah, because you can kind of see when it comes with the U.S., especially the U.S. being on foreign territory, such as something like South Korea, to be 100% honest, the U.S. doesn't care. I'm gonna be straight up honest.
Information, yeah, just like
you just don't care. Like me and my best friend was stationed in South Korea for 3 years, and he told me a whole bunch of stories. You have Marines that are stationed in Okinawa, and there's issues every single month that's between the military and civilians out there. And then you also have to keep in mind that South Korea and North Korea are at a ceasefire.
Right.
At best. So the South Korean government, which the military, despite having a good military, could be devastating if the North decide to invade again, they're going to put up with BS from the U.S. because they want the U.S. support.
Right.
I mean, just from the political side, that's just what South Korea is going to do. Oh, sure, yeah, big brother, we'll let you go and do this because they want to keep the other bully on the other side of the street.
Right.
So going back to that, now coming from here, and this is where the director really shines. Bong Joon-ho is the family dynamic. That is where he comes in as a masterclass. And we talk about always characterization is where your story should begin. And he's the one that sells that. You care about these characters. You get upset when the government has a delayed reaction, when the government doesn't care. And it's like, no, they have to go and they have to save the girl. And they have to take means into their own hands because it's something that's like, it's relatable. And it's not just, oh, here's an excuse to go have people fight the monster. It's a believable excuse of, if we had a child in that situation and the military responded the way it did, that's how we would respond. If I had a daughter in that situation, the military not going anything, guess what? I'm strapping in and I'm going. I'm doing whatever.
Right.
I got to get out of the hospital to go after that. I'm going to break out of the hospital and go do that because the military is not going to care. The military thinks big picture. That's it.
It was almost like, and I kind of dug that shift because almost like after they, because the dad comes off as kind of a bumbling idiot in that respect, leading up to these events. But after the moment where they strapped him down and they're like drilling into his head and shit, like, it is almost like they fixed him because everything just crystallizes and he does what he needs to do. Sarcasm brings up, I got that social commentary, but I really loved the characterization more than any other aspect of the film. The most unlikely hero outlasts the others by being just a damn good dad. Absolutely. The depiction of 3 generations here I thought was brilliant, from the granddad to the siblings, to the dad, his brother and his sister, and of course to the guy's daughter, and to Gong's daughter. And I loved each one of them brings their kind of generational viewpoint, which is so markedly different given what was going on in the country at the time. That's kind of informed who they are. You see the differentiation between the dad and his kids and his granddaughter. So I love that they convey that, but all of that falls away when we are faced with what is truly important and we kind of get our shit together. It's expertly weaved, balancing how we follow each one of their kind of stories and their experiences, whether it's the brother trying to the uncle, the alcoholic, business guy, the alcoholic, college guy who can't get a job. How he does what he does best to try and find the little girl. How the dad is kind of like working his way through his shit, everybody using their own talents to try and solve the problem. And then, of course, the story of the little girl, which is trapped down there in the drainage area where the monsters hold up. All of that was fantastic. And it's hard to fucking articulate because I just sound like I'm just raining praises upon it, but it's a combination of not only the performances but the cinematography as well. and the way it captured everything. So, and then you throw a giant fucking monster in there, which is great, which is it's a legitimately realistic looking thing, like this mutant creation that ostensibly could exist in this world, and that's something weird and supernatural. So, across the board. Yeah, and Josh Lee brings up, I wanted to dive into that because that goes into like how things were budgeted, and Josh Lee brings up, and it was actually filmed on location at the river in the sewers. The actors had to get up to date on their tetanus shots. Absolutely. One of the big things about it that was difficult in filming on locations because like they didn't, Bong didn't want to recreate the sewers as a set. He wanted to be legitimate to inform his actors as to what they were doing. But over the course of filming, they went through a hot period and a cold period. So one of the difficult things was when it was really, really cold, the water or the kind of like water that would, the moisture that was in the sewer would freeze. And so they would have to deal with those circumstances when they're down in the sewers. But when it got hot, everything would melt and then everything would dry out and it was just dusty all the time. So shit was just like, blowing around. It was because the way their sewers are built up, wind, they pick up wind really, really easily. And so constantly having to shift from one foot to the other in these circumstances to not only make this monster believable and effective in both the practical and digital respect, but also to shoot on location, to put his actors in these scenarios, and to try and convey these things appropriately. It just goes to show the talents of the director, and we see that again. Snowpiercer, in Parasite. There was one called like Barking Dogs, I think it was what it's called. Son of a bitch, I can't remember. It was so fucking good. Barking Dogs Never Bite. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, across the board, it hits on every level.
Well, see, even when you talk about shooting in the actual sewers, I honestly believe that's probably a budgetary choice.
Oh, no
because
doubt.
Building sets is very expensive. You're hiring carpenters, you got to rent out the space and the time it takes to build everything. And I don't see this film being at that budget level. So it's like, well, what do we need to invest our budget in? We need to invest our budget in the extras. We need to invest our budget into the monster itself, which is the right place, because this movie feels bigger than the actual budget should allow. It does.
Yeah,
it does,
like 11. Oh, sorry, I overestimated. 11 million. 11 million was his budget.
Which is, of course, nothing in the grand scheme of filmmaking, especially when you're starting to do all these military and the CDC and all these people coming in and all that. It gets really expensive really fast. So the thing comes with he has learned to work with what he has, which is the best way to put it together on it. And I mean, obviously he's gone on to do great things. Parasite is a masterpiece. And hands down deserve to win Best Picture. I don't even remember the other films that are nominated, to be honest with you. I saw them. Parasite. I was like, that's gonna win, because that's just hands down. I like this by a mile.
That's one thing that I mean, Bong is always trying to defy industry standards and try to give people what they don't expect, like subvert expectations on that. Like, first and foremost, the fact that the monster looks like something realistic in the respect, like a mutated actual fish creature, that subverts it as far as like a monster coming up out of the river, when it could have been something like, definitely supernatural in that respect, but something realistic. The fact that he actively chose that, unlike Jaws or other things, that he wanted to show the monster in its entirety. We didn't need to see like elements of the monster leading up to a big reveal at the end. It's like, fuck that. 2006, I can't remember the first time I'd seen it, when obviously it opens up with this big ass wide shot. They're looking in the Han River. It's like, oh, where did it go? And then they turn around and they look down the look down the little sidewalk area off of the embankment, and there it is, full glory, rampaging down the fucking like straight towards him. I was like, and choosing to show the monster in its entirety was a shift as well, as far as monster films go. And even like, I think it was a choice that I think would have served. There's another monster movie that came out recently that was excellent practical effects, called The Lake. And even that kind of fell into the old trope of not revealing too much until towards the end of the film. And I think that that film would have been done a service.
It's not about the monster. It's the thing about this film is it's not about the monsters, it's about the characters. Whereas when you watch Jaws, where that trope got created from, it's about the shark. You're not exploring these family dynamics and these interpersonal connections. No, you have the sheriff trying to protect the citizens of the town from a shark. And that's where it dives into. Same thing with things like Jurassic Park. It's about the dinosaurs. Whereas this film is about the family dynamic. It's not about what is the monster. We need to learn more about the monster. We need to do boom, monster kidnaps girl. What is a family going to do?
Kill that motherfucker. Kill that bitch.
That's what the movie's about. So it's like, you don't need a big build-up reveal for it because it's not important.
Right. So an excellent film that subverts expectations as far as monster films go. Does everything differently. The cinematography was brilliant in the film, and the way it captured, our actors, the actors as well as the monster itself. A brilliant blend across the board. You could feel elements, inspirations from Jaws, from Jurassic Park, from a number of big ones, but it manages to be inspired by those things. But Bong does his own thing here. So really, really fantastic. Film across the board. Chef's kiss on this one. And right out of the middle of the decade, that is your favorite as far as filmmaking goes.
And yeah, that's
I'm telling you, I don't know how they do it cheaper. I mean, when I found out that they got that Weta Workshop was instrumental in developing this thing, that they were the one that did the original like development of the fish monster itself and creating the small casting of it, and then the orphanage came in and they helped to do the big thing. So they had the big practical effects one. And they built it like you would do. They built it in sections. They built a big ass head and a tail and shit like that. So it would be, they could work in pieces. They had not this giant monolithic thing, but so much work went into it, and to work on that budget and give us this film is absolutely amazing. A lesson in how to stretch every single dollar and maximize for effect, and to put the camera where it's meant to be, narratively speaking, so we don't waste time, because it's the characters in this that drive it. The monster is just a brilliant little add-on.
I mean, this is the thing when you look at Godzilla -1. The director was a guy who specialized in visual effects, so he knew he could do a lot of it himself, which saves a lot of money, because then it's like you can spend money elsewhere on bigger sets or these things that you can't do, knowing that he can just render Godzilla on his own, which is a handful of people.
Fuck yeah. One of the best Godzillas out there. So, absolutely. God, fucking love Godzilla -1. It's so good. All right. Well, the question that I have for the audience tonight, because Bong Joon-ho is arguably one of the greatest Korean directors, probably up there, probably one of the greatest directors of my life that I've gotten to watch, an inspiration to me and a lot of stuff that I do. My curiosity, I want to ask the audience, even though he hasn't dabbled totally in horror across the board, he's delved into some black comedy, or a comedy with horror elements, or even dark thriller, kind of like stuff like Parasite and shit like that. But the question that I want to ask the audience is, what has been the best Bong Joon-ho film? Of his filmography, what do you think is his best film? So, and we could probably get some recommendations from people so that they can go and watch, check out films that they may not be aware of. And yes, Snowpiercer was fucking amazing.
Once again, this is a great movie, but I just got to go Parasite. Parasite
was great.
It stays with you afterwards, and the twists and turns that movie makes, where it's not very often where a twist of a movie actually gets me. And I was just like, oh, what? But it makes sense, because a lot of times when you have twists that are too far out there, like, okay, you're stretching it just for a twist's sake, but everything actually makes sense in that movie.
Shyamalan ding dong.
Yeah, exactly.
What a twist! All right, so definitely let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com what in your opinion, what is the best Bong Joon-ho film. So, all right. Well, it is that time. It's Eugene's favorite time. It's my favorite time. It is the best time for all of those who've stuck it out throughout the show. What time is it, Eugene?
It's trivia time.
And unfortunately, Raven Darkstar is not here for her to enjoy that. But yes, it is trivia time. We've got the live chat pulled up. First person with the correct answer to tonight's question will get a special item from the Week in Horror store. By the way, for those individuals who won items previously and you were waiting for them, those will be arriving shortly. I have solved the issue with Teespring, and you should be getting those momentarily. So let me know when those arrive. I got confirmation. God, Teespring is so hard to fucking work with, but those are coming in. So let me know. And be sure when you get your items, put them up in the Show Your Swag in Discord. So, but for you, get this first answer, get the correct answer, be the first one to get the correct answer in the live chat. You will win a special mystery item from the Week in Horror store. So, Eugene, give them their trivia question for the night.
So get those Google fingers ready. The trivia question is, the design of Jean Jacket was partially inspired by what legendary anime? The design of Jean Jacket from the movie Nope was partially inspired by what legendary anime? The first person to comment with the correct answer below wins an item from the Week in Horror store. And we got some answers coming in. And no, it is not Akira, but we do have a winner.
Yes.
Which is Travis Brown. The correct answer is Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Neon Genesis Evangelion. Thank you.
Evangelion.
But yes, Travis Brown, you are correct. You were the first person in the chat. Neon Genesis Evangelion was a partial inspiration for Jean Jacket's design, especially towards the end of the film. Another inspiration for it was Orga from Godzilla, from the Godzilla films. But well done, Travis Brown. I see him rolling in. Sarcasm, Neon Genesis. Ronella's name, Evangelion. Yep, Joshua Lee, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Sarcasm says, damn it, Travis. Yeah, he was right in front of you, bud. So congratulations, dude. Well done. And it was weird. I actually thought that Joshua Lee was going to win this one because he actually mentioned it in the chat earlier. Like he mentioned, he's like, wasn't like the design of this thing partially inspired by Neon Genesis Evangelion? And I didn't say anything. It was like I saw it. I saw the comment, Josh, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to spoil it because I knew what the trivia question was.
If you look at the comments, Travis Brown is paying attention because he just commented, someone mentioned it, and I copied the title.
Yes.
Damn.
So there you go. There you go, Joshua Lee. There you go, Josh. There you go.
Hey, whatever works. Yeah.
Whatever works. Yep. So well done, Travis. I've got your name written down. And we will get that printed and shipped to you ASAP. Oh, Travis Brown says, I want to give it to Joshua Lee since he got the anime. Since he was responsible for the answer. All right, then. Well done, bud. I've got Joshua's name down. Very generous of you. Thank you so much. So, Joshua Lee, I have got your name down. Travis Brown has gifted his prize to you. We will get that printed and shipped to you ASAP. So, well done, Travis. Very generous. Thank you very much. And congrats, Joshua Lee. Well done. Joshua said I was right behind Travis. Let me see here. Technically, Sarcasm was right behind him. Yeah, Sarcasm almost had it. I imagine there was like a second difference between the two.
That's the difference in internet speed.
Yeah. Ping. The ping got you, bud. Sorry to say. All right. Well, that, Horror Fiends, is going to conclude this episode of the Week in Horror Podcast. We want to thank you all so much for joining us. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash that like and subscribe button and be sure to hit that bell so that you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we look back at the mad science shark horror Deep Blue Sea, the pandemic-inspired Zoom call horror host, the iconic 80s vamp fest, The Lost Boys, and the Canadian isolation survival horror Antisocial. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the awesome artwork you see splattered all over our merchandise, which you can find over at Teespring. And for more from Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links that are down in the description. Follow us on the socials for the daily splatter. Get your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, all kinds of horror shenanigans, and support the show through channel memberships by joining the Army of the Dead, super chats, super thanks, PayPals, or even join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. What are you waiting for? Join us. As always, thank you to each and every single one of you for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could possibly fucking have. I am your host, JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We will see each and every single one of you next week. And as always, stay scared.